live.
We are live. Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Nadelko.
And I'm April McCall.
Producer Matt.
And welcome to episode 102.
102.
102 of Live at the Hive.
Yeah,
Now we're getting up there.
Oops. Yeah, we are getting up there,
sure.
aren't we?
for sure.
All right. So let's just dive right in. We got a lot of new stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we do.
That's
have a
going
lot
on in the
of
world of digital marketing.
Cool. All right. So first up for what's new, brands on Facebook Messenger, they're getting 3 new features to better connect with their customers. And this is going to be called icebreakers.
Cool.
So it's going to be used where people can set up commonly asked questions that businesses have or that customers have for businesses. And they can go through and kind of set these up automatically. So as you can see here, this is a screenshot of the Facebook icebreaker feature in Messenger. So you can kind of put down questions like, what are your hours? Where are you located? If you have a best-selling product, you can maybe set in a few questions about your products.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think that this is going to be great to kind of just make sure that everything's in shape on your Facebook
Right.
page. And
Yeah,
that
for
your kind of ads also kind of run parallel to this too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great way to incite some engagement there.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and it's a good name in terms of the branding of it. But yeah, an icebreaker is an
cool.
accurate way to kind of implement that.
I kind of like how Facebook mentioned here in the article, icebreakers help businesses reduce friction in starting the conversation. So literally just an icebreaker, I think is great with helping businesses better connect with their consumers.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and asking a question, right? To start that, so to put it back into the into the customer's court or the lead's court, instead of pushing out something that would be, considered pushy.
Yeah,
I guess if
exactly.
that
Kinda
makes
on
sense.
their own terms, right? So
Yeah.
that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, they have 2 other features. It's click to messenger ad updates. So for businesses that already have multiple Facebook apps connected to the Messenger platform, the company is making it easier to select which app they want to use for their click to messenger ads. And then the third option from Facebook Messenger are reactions and message replies that users take advantage of during conversations with businesses on the platform. So it basically adds more clarity to the conversation, helps businesses respond better. So.
Right. We totally forgot to do something.
Oh.
It's November, which means it's
Movember.
Movember.
If you
it's
couldn't
Movember.
tell.
We should have kicked off with that.
No.
Why don't we
I
just,
was gonna save
do
it
it
for
right
the
now.
end.
what,
This-
were you going to save it for the
yeah,
end?
I was gonna save it for the
Oh.
But hey,
Did you
it's
have a whole
okay.
thing planned out here? Or?
I was just gonna bring up the page and stuff like that, but
Why don't we
I
just-
think we're good.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that now, or do you want to leave
Yeah,
it?
we can do it now.
Let's do
Yeah,
it now.
Let's do it now. Kick it off.
Let's do it now.
So this is the second year that we're doing Movember. All the bees, all the guys at the Hive, we're gonna be growing out mows and
Yeah,
raising money
that's
for
right.
men's health, changing the face of men's health. We do have a page on. Let me see if I can bring it up here.
Yeah, team page.
Yep.
Yeah, we do have a team page here, the Hive. So you can go here, donate. We'll be doing some fun stuff throughout the month. So make sure that you're keeping on top of our social channels. We'll have some cool kind of contests with the bees and things like that with mustaches
Can't
and
wait.
things. So
Yeah, it'll be
that'll
some
be
fun
great.
stuff.
Yeah,
Good
for
times.
sure.
It's a great campaign. It's it brings on a lot of awareness to something that typically has never gotten that much awareness,
That's
but
true.
it's
Yeah.
an important thing. Talking about prostate health.
Yeah, it's all about men's health. So it's either prostate, testicular cancer, mental health as well. Some of the stats are 1 in 6 men will have a prostate cancer within their life. Testicular cancer is also common between men 18 to 34 years of age. It's the most common cancer in that age bracket. And men typically die 6 years earlier than women do.
Oh, jeez.
That's pretty grim.
Does that
but
stat still stand?
Yeah,
That's
it's pretty
amazing.
grim. But I think Movember is a great way to bring light to some of these stats and kind of remove the stigma for at least men's mental
sure.
health. The word "man up" I know is kind of toxic to kind of both genders. So there you go. I think it'll be good.
Yeah, for sure. And prostate cancer is also, if caught early, is one of the easiest cancers to solve, and then one of the deadliest if you don't solve it.
Yeah,
that's insane.
yeah, for sure.
So it is a little crazy in terms of that, but lots of fun to come on Movember, and it's hopefully we can scare up a few donations from you, but any kind of support and awareness is welcome.
November's always a fun month at the Hive. We're getting ready for the holidays. Everyone's busy, and doing these little things kind of help kind of soothe everyone, so it's all good.
When our clients get the pre-Christmas jitters to get things going, this is like
I can start feeling it.
This is the dead zone between like just before U.S. Thanksgiving and the kickoff,
true,
right?
Yeah.
And for B2B clients, it's the end of the year. Time to close out those books. So always good to have some icebreakers.
Yes.
See what I did there?
Yeah, I did see what you
did. Krista just shared the page, so
Kristen did.
Awesome.
Cool. So check it out.
Alrighty. So for next up, some really big news in the Twitter world. Jack Dorsey announced that Twitter will be, quote unquote, banning political advertisements on Twitter globally.
That's
actually pretty big.
It's quite big.
Yeah, he does. He thinks that, and Twitter believes that political messages should be earned and not bought on their platform. And I think that was a really powerful message. But this also goes in line with kind of a one-up on Facebook.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
If you look at the comment threads, they're all shading at Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Well, he had a rough week last week.
I did see that.
Not this week. I'm sure this week was probably marginally better for him.
Yeah.
But he did not do well in front of Congress in terms of trying to make sense of what he was saying. It didn't. It was full of contradictions. And he had an interesting back and forth with AOC.
Yeah, I went viral.
That was crazy.
Which was kind of proof that if someone knows what they're talking about and they're not, uninformed and elderly, that he doesn't have these answers that they really should have answers for some of that stuff. Yeah, it's interesting. There's going to be exceptions. So some of the exceptions that Jack talked about were get out and vote campaigns. So general voter awareness campaigns, those types of campaigns. Yep, those are allowed. It'll be interesting to see how this one pans out. I think it's clearer.
Yeah.
That's good. And I think that one of the other things is, so he's saying earned, and then what the discussion threads we're talking about is, okay, now how does the algorithm affect that?
Right.
Right? That's been an ongoing
thing.
Kind of issue.
Yeah.
With can that be gamed by bots? But from the advertising perspective, I think there's a good clarification there in terms of, in Canada, for example, television and other advertising for political ads are capped.
Yeah.
So they're equitable, but in the States they're not. So if you just have more money, at least I don't think they are. I'm not a politician in the States, but but I think the clarity of choice is what stands out here.
Yeah.
In terms of what could be done.
Pretty bold move though. That's a pretty interesting read.
Absolutely. Steve Holford just joined my watch party. Hey, Steve.
Hello.
Long time no talk. Hope things are well in Toronto, and you guys weathered that storm yesterday.
That was nuts.
Passed us by for Halloween, but it was...
Luckily.
There was a lot of brave kids out last night.
I did. I got about 60 kids to my door.
Wow,
60?
That's good.
60. I got a bunch of kids.
Wow.
That is good.
They were all ready in their coats. They braved it.
That is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
That's a lot of kids.
I ran out of candy.
Yeah.
So none for me, I guess.
None for you.
None for me.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's okay.
Cool.
Very cool.
Right.
So moving right along to the world of media and publishing.
Yes.
The New York Times.
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
That's okay.
I was like, are you going on the right one? Cool.
I got you back.
All right. So there was a big SEO update that we talked about last week for Google. Google burped. It was supposed to be one of the biggest updates, but not a lot of people felt the change in the SEO community, except one of the biggest publishers, the New York Times.
Yeah.
The New York Times came out and said that they felt it, and it caused negative changes to their ranking, so
Right.
with their articles. However, the New York Times did say that they were moving towards like a mobile first indexing, so they're not 100% sure if BERT was the cause for this or whether it was something on their side. However, they are leaning more towards the big Google BERT update.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things happening at the same time, and I think, an algorithm change. John Mueller, later on in the article, mentioned that we move domains to mobile first indexing when we think they're ready, not by industry.
Right.
So if you're seeing changes in search, it would be useful to have specific. Otherwise, there's not much I can do. So when you have a really huge domain, the very authoritative domain with I can imagine what their search traffic and news traffic looks like, being the size that they are.
Right.
There are probably multiple things that may or may not be BERT related happening to them at the same time. But if you had a site, a lot of the sites that we manage and we work on actually got a positive boost from BERT rather than a negative. If you have that kind of saturation, in a sense, there's nowhere to go but down if there's an impacted change. And I think one of the things, and I wouldn't draw a direct correlation between the two, but in Google's last search radar guidelines, they did update what they consider to be an authoritative news source, right? And I'm not going to put on the tinfoil hat and say, because oftentimes these algorithms are so complicated that even people at Google, when they release a major change like BERT, don't understand what the source of the impact is. They have to go on a case-by-case basis and try to investigate it, right? So I think that the kind of key takeaway is that if they were impacted and they didn't have, but they also have a mobile first indexing, and they have a huge search share percentage already, right? Not that they couldn't get more, but it would be more likely to me that they would see a drop. And they're being very vague about what negative means. I think that's what John Mueller was pointing out there, is like, gotta give some details, right? And which I'm sure they can't or won't do.
Probably not.
So this is a bit of rumor, right, in there too. This often happens with SEO. It often happens where a big algorithmic change, especially on a big complicated site that has so many different indexations across Google properties like the New York Times, even they might not know if they were making changes right on their team necessarily that could be impacting all of that.
And even if it was, they wouldn't admit it because
well, you never know, right?
Well, it's something that, how can Google help you if you're not giving any details and doing it on Twitter?
Exactly.
Right?
That's true.
So I think there's a big self-reflection that the team at New York Times has to do in terms of their
It'll be interesting to see how that unfolds.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Alrighty. Next up, Facebook again is changing the way it measures its organic page impressions. So the company said that it's shortening the time frame for how it filters out repeat impressions and kind of aligns it and how it coincides with the paid impressions as well.
Yeah. So this is part of the frustration of dealing with Facebook specifically with the number of changes that they put into place on their core metrics. We were at a client a couple of weeks ago having to explain why year over year, there's in the middle of the year when these changes happen, all of a sudden you have apples and oranges. Something drops drastically, and we have to cite a number of sources in order to remain credible.
Because you just can't say, "Oh, the algorithm changed again." You know what I mean? It's kind of like, come on, really?
Well,
but it actually does, and
it's very true.
I mean, even today we were talking about. I know we had a discussion in April about organic impressions on pages and stuff like that, and at the same time, it's just kind of like, well. It's, you know what I mean? It's one of those things, and like, I hate for it to happen, but at the same time, usually when things like this happen,
we've seen the data, right? Just reporting out metrics too. It's just there's no other explanation other than sourcing some.
And you got to act quick and kind of revert your strategy.
Exactly.
And I think this is in part staying ahead of these things and being on top of them and being proactive. If you are in marketing and you're in-house, you have to explain those metrics drops to people that may or may not be fully educated on what Facebook is doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is really important that you communicate that internally, if you're internal, and or to your clients proactively, to explain, either what's coming or what's happening or what has happened.
Right.
So for example, right? So Facebook counts an ad impression by the number of times an instance of an ad, and they're saying basically they're bringing it in line with the way that they count impressions on ads. So they've had two different ways of measuring the same metric for two formats is basically what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And if so, here's the example. If an ad is on screen and someone scrolls down and scrolls back up to the same ad, that counts as one impression.
Yes.
Right? If the ad is on screen for someone 2 different times in a day, that's 2 impressions.
Which makes sense. Yeah.
Right?
That would make sense,
That does make more sense. So if your impressions drop, what I would do is I would put a pin in it, send out an alert to clients with this update, linking to a verified source.
Just to show,
Right? When the change, and annotate that change and what it means. Practically, what does this mean for us?
Yes.
Right? And for you and your business.
Absolutely.
So Stacy's saying just got to roll with the changes. Well,
that's exactly
really
our
it,
motto,
right?
right?
That's
It's that least land that we always bring it back to, right?
Absolutely, 100%. And I mean, it's this is part of what we talked about last week, which was maintaining sanity in the digital agency world, where things are extremely fast paced and they can be extremely stressful. And to head some of this off is to be proactive with your clients, and if you're an internal in-house marketer, be proactive with your internal team and explain these things so that it's not the end of the year, the end of the quarter, the end of the month, and you're trying to catch up and try to explain to them when they see this drop, which could then be misappropriated to your performance. Right.
And then you're scouring back and trying to figure out why it dropped, right?
Well, exactly.
Squash a fire before it's a fire.
Exactly. Cool. Alrighty. So for the next up, Facebook once again. Facebook's had a lot going on this week. The past couple of weeks have been kind of all over the place. But we talked about Facebook, the news tab launching shortly. So they've actually started to roll this out in the United States. So actually starting to get kind of like a look and feel for how it's actually going to be, what it's going to look like and how people are going to use it. So there's some screenshots here, just kind of straight up. It looks more so kind of like looks very Apple Newsy.
I was gonna
say, doesn't it? Is that what you were gonna say? Looks almost exactly like Apple News.
It looks like the Apple News feed, but I don't hate it. So, I mean.
So I'm assuming you hate Apple News?
No.
Okay.
I like it. I think it's. I'm looking forward to this update rolling here because I follow a lot of these on Facebook, so it'd be nice to have it all in one area. So just a quick. When I'm on Facebook or my app and I just want to take a quick look, it's all in one area instead of kind of sporadic.
Yeah. I mean, I think that with this, it's going to be cool. And I mean, for me, I might be using the news more than the actual Facebook.
That's what I'm thinking.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I use Facebook mostly, like not only for friends update, but news, right? So I think it's a good tab to kind of keep things organized, right, on your platform.
Right. A couple of things to keep in mind about this is that publishers will have to go and register as a news organization, follow certain guidelines. We all know what happened last time. Facebook got into the news side of things. And Facebook also has a sordid history with publishers of all types. In terms of whether it's media companies or news publishers, the creators. For the longest time, there wasn't even monetization, for example, for things like video. That is now the case that it is. But the previously what news was interspersed into your news feed. So this is a little bit different because it is another feature. I would say like groups, for example. So you go into another tab and then you're going to see your Facebook news there. The interesting thing about this is... how they're going to do the opt-ins for things like the Washington Post and places that are gated for premium content.
Yeah.
So obviously they're going to respect that.
Yeah.
Right.
But are we going to see something
Like Apple News Plus.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never know.
Apple News Plus, and then a revenue share plus direct.
I love my Apple News Plus. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's it is definitely interesting. Apple News Plus. The question is going to be so if I'm the New York Times or the Washington Post and I've got subscriptions at whatever $3.99, $4.99 for digital only per month, am I going to get included into some Facebook News Plus at some fixed fee, and then I get less?
Yeah.
How do they divide that up?
That's a good question. It'll be interesting to see how they do that. But
Yeah.
I think to Matt's point, I think I'll be using this too more than most
Actual
sources.
Facebook?
Actual Facebook.
Yep.
So I think it brings people back onto Facebook, which is something that they are looking for.
It'd be interesting to see how they incorporate their ads too into it too. Like if it's gonna be like Apple News where there's very little, you know what I mean? I don't think I've ever seen one, or if I have, it's very little.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see kind of some of the legitimacy for like your news source too, right? How they're going to,
Well, yeah, and I think this is a way for them to weed out,
exactly.
right? Just blogs that are, fake news.
The fake news,
right?
So this
And
is
the
good
manipulation.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, and in a sense, if you look at a publisher sharing in a news tab or a news feed, a feed of news, not the news feed, to confuse things on Facebook. Then what you'd be able to see is that quite likely the organic sharing of posts may be squelched to prevent fake news. Yeah. So maybe a different way of getting around the problems that Facebook has been having with content. And this really affects all sorts of marketers and how you spread your message and how are you able to interact on Facebook. So some interesting moves being made on that front for sure. The next one is kind of cool. I don't know if you saw it in your note there. Did you see the Facebook or the Google ads?
The stop in indexing?
No. Google Ads officially rolls out lead form extensions.
Ooh, no, I haven't seen that one.
I thought I put it in.
Yeah,
it's in mine. Am I in the right one? Yeah, I'm in the right one. 102.
Let's see.
It's right before Facebook in Basecamp there. Do you see it? Or maybe you have to refresh.
Maybe I have to refresh
your screen.
Internet.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, okay.
You'll get the link.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things we're going to talk about today while Matt's sorting out that link, and let me know if you can get to it, because I can send it to you as well if you can't. What we are going to be talking about today and what's working is how to deal with paid advertising failures, right? And a few points that you can go through in your Google ads and in your Facebook ads to ensure that you're not continuously just running non-performing ads, or how do you deal with that, and what does it actually mean? Right? So what this is, were you able to find that link?
No, it's not up there for me. If you
really?
Can drop it again, that'd be
sweet. I can drop it in there, no problem. So Google has site links and what are called extensions, and extensions let you do a number of things to enhance what your ads look like, right? What?
Sorry.
You're laughing at a comment?
Yeah.
Brandon Shoemaker?
Yeah.
I don't know who that is, but how about them apples?
Yeah. How about them apples? I don't know. It's just funny.
Is that an inside joke? Do you know?
No,
Brandon?
it's just funny.
I don't know.
It's just a random comment. Sorry. Continue.
On the we have 11 concurrent viewers.
Yeah.
So what a Google Ads extension is, if you're running ads in there, is you can add structured snippet reviews. So you could put an actual review, 5-star reviews, that kind of thing, on your ad itself, right? And they enhance the size of it and the format. So right now, one of the big things that a lot of people in the paid world are, sorry, not the paid world, but the business world are a little upset about is the format sizing and the dominance that now exists for a Google ad versus an organic listing result.
Yep.
We were at a client this week which was airing some grievances that spends quite a 7-figure
A
budget.
large amount of money.
7-figure advertising budget per year.
Yeah.
And when Google comes back and says, well, you should put 20% of your budget to your brand,
Yeah.
it's because you could be way down the search page regardless, right?
Right, exactly.
So anyhow, in terms of enhancing an ad, if you're looking to promote your business on Google, which you should do, and you should be using Google My Business, these extensions give extra feature sets to your ad itself. So it's more than just that simple little text ad.
Right.
This one is a very cool one, and this is their lead gen form ad. Did you see it there now?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring it up here.
You
Yep.
just
It's on
bring it up.
screen right now.
So Facebook has got a lead gen form format, which is extremely effective as well. And this brings that into the Google world. So as a business, you can provide offers, generate a lead, and be able to communicate with that person. And there's a couple of you can see the example there in the screenshot that they've got.
Very cool.
And so you can customize your call to action, you can customize an offer, and then you can collect that information very quickly and very easily. So this is something that I think is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in the B2B space and you have a second and third step remarketing campaign, you can add the lead gen component. It removes that friction and that barrier to click, you know, visit the site, download, like fill out the form. You could contain it within the Google experience. Also validating in a lot of ways when people are logged in with Google for Business corporate accounts, you get accurate information from that as well. So now this is a new thing, but one of the things that they're promoting, and I believe this, we've seen this in Facebook lead gen campaigns as well, is that one advertiser, they were reporting a 20% higher closing rate for sales leads after implementing this extension.
I believe it, yeah.
Yeah. So brand new feature should be rolling out. It's not fully out there yet, but it will be, you know,
Cool. It'll be fun.
in a couple of months probably rolled out completely. That's typically the time frame.
Sure.
Cool.
Right on.
All right.
Right. The last article we have for what's new. It's I kind of found it and I kind of thought it was kind of weird,
this one.
but a week long there was a week-long iOS app store bug.
That's
and
crazy.
it wiped out over 20 million ratings.
Yeah, and it affected
on the App Store.
big brands, like not the small guys, but I think it was Google, Microsoft, Starbucks, and a bunch of others that lost a bunch of
and apparently it wasn't just Apple though. So I have this chart up right here and it just shows the total ratings for affected apps.
Yeah, if you scroll
and it's
down
like
there.
cruising at the good 65 million, right? And then it has a 35% drop.
which is it's just down
Right off a cliff.
Yeah.
And then they say further down in the article, see Hulu also lost some ratings as well here, but it looks like they recovered on the 29th. But other big apps saw the ratings disappear in the U.S. And now this was mainly focused in the U.S., but it kind of spread all around. So it's Chase, Walgreens, Venmo, Amazon Prime, Southwest, Hotels.com, Disneyland, ESPN, Amex, like big brands.
They're huge, yeah.
100%.
It's crazy. That's pretty.
But they
interesting.
bounced back.
They did.
They got
did.
it back. So this is totally a data center
wow.
server problem.
Yeah.
We wiped out
Yeah.
a VM or a Docker instance.
I
or
just
whatever.
found it
Pretty
interesting.
interesting,
Like,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, well, I could see people panicking because these companies,
The
I mean,
reviews are
it's
important.
funny, but the reviews, they invest heavily in review programs because they carry so much weight. I just wanted to shout out Brandon Shoemaker says those chairs are fire. I feel like if I sat down in them, I'd have grill marks on my pants. Looking spicy.
he
Nicely
loves it.
said.
He loves
There you
it. He
go.
loves it.
Nicely
There
said.
you
Well,
go.
thanks a lot. These are pretty fancy red chairs.
They're nice.
They are.
They're cozy too.
Very
so,
cozy.
I mean,
They
I
are.
don't know.
I'm trying to figure out how not to look awkward, but I think I'm getting closer.
No, I
Just
think
'cause the
no,
way
that's
that
good.
they are.
No, that's good. And
Yeah.
Brandon likes the chairs, so he can't change them,
There we go.
right?
That's right.
No,
No, we
going
won't
back.
change them.
It's not going back. All right.
So yes, this is kind of from the facepalm file
Yeah.
for Apple.
Yeah.
But Apple's classically silent about these kinds of things.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no problem, and then it's back again.
Yep. Pretty much.
All right, so we're on to what's working.
Yes.
Let's talk
Working.
about paid advertising. Where are we here?
Woohoo.
What is this Basecamp thread? This seems to keep
It just keeps going.
You just wiped out my thing, dude.
No?
Refresh, I think.
Refresh.
Yeah.
Unless Basecamp is on the fritz right now.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Because I don't see. I mean, I don't need the list of what we were going to talk about, but I wanted to make sure that everybody else does.
Yeah.
Sure. I'll see if I can pull it up. And
Update it.
Yeah, it's just bouncing back. Okay, so what we're talking about this week are two things. On Google and Facebook, we want to give you some real actionable tips that you can use if you're running Google ads or Facebook ads into how to make them perform properly, but also going through the pilot and testing process. I think this is really important because it's the source of a lot of people's frustration.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Right?
For sure.
We launched a campaign, we're spending some money, we're not getting the initial results that we want,
Yeah.
right? I'm frustrated. Let's shut this off.
Yeah.
And the thing to keep in mind, I'll go back to this analogy of baseball. If I play baseball and I bat 300, okay? In baseball lingo, I'm going to the Hall of Fame if I have a 10-year career.
Yeah.
And I bat consistently 300. I'm going to the Hall of Fame. I'll be one of the best batters around.
Ever. Yeah.
Yeah. The reality is that's 30%. And 7 of the pitches you threw that were thrown at you completely missed or struck out.
It's true.
Yeah.
Right? You have to view your Facebook and your Google advertising as something that your initial theories will most likely be wrong. Right? Now, you do everything you can to make these things perform.
Yeah.
But there's a much higher probability that you're going to have a failure
Right.
before you're going to have a knock it out of the park success.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're running these campaigns, and like I said, this doesn't matter if you're a freelancer, if you're in an agency, if you're doing B2B, or if you're doing B2C, you're a small business owner who wants to try to get people to your business, to really take into account a few things is pivot and test.
Right.
Understand where there are leaks in your funnel between the impression, right? Between the click, the destination, the message, what you're asking somebody to do, and what the viable outcome of that is, whether it's a registration or whether it's a purchase.
Yep.
So let's start with Facebook, I guess.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. So here are a few things that you can do with your Facebook campaigns to absolutely ensure a better chance of success initially. The first thing is never sell your core product to a cold lead. Okay.
That's a good one.
Unless you're Mercedes-Benz, Heineken, Amazon,
Right. Big brand. Yeah.
big brands
Big brand.
that already have that,
club.
people know who they are, right? But for smaller businesses, which is the vast majority of all businesses, the first step in everything should be a brand campaign that you're willing to invest in that will gain the intent of your audience. So the first thing you want to do with your Facebook ads account is tag your website, build a custom audience based on that, let it grow, and keep building that. The audiences are everything for Facebook advertising.
Definitely.
Interests are very high level, right?
Yep.
You can use interest to help build your audience as you get people interacting, but not with offers, because if it's Matt's Hats, I just made that up.
Matt's Hats.
MattsHats.com.
I like
Matt's
it.
got a hat
I gotta go
store.
save that right now.
Yeah, go
There
do
you
it
go.
right now.
Go register
It's a
that
good
domain.
business idea. Let's do
There you
it.
go.
Let's go.
If I have MattsHats.com and I present that to people that are interested in fashion, they're not going to know who I am. So if I say 25% off at Matt's Hats,
They're like,
Who's Matt's Hats?
Who cares?
yeah, I may go visit, browse, check it out. I still have a lot of consideration to do.
There's a lot of consideration
Right.
phase. Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm Movement or one of these larger companies that has invested heavily in the brand, I can do that because they are targeting
know.
to audiences. So you take the Facebook pixel, make sure it's on your site, make sure that in Facebook you are creating that custom audience that's going to build against that, and keep creating and building audiences and combining them and creating lookalikes from
Right.
there. Okay. Then you can run an entertaining high-level video ad, for example, but make it great content.
Yeah, make it fun. Yeah.
That engages people, that gets them interested. You can then build an audience based on the people that viewed that for 25%, 50%, 75%, 100% of the time. And you can then you can add them to your other audiences, so you can run a campaign to them to take the next step.
Yep.
And you can also You can also then, I totally lost my train of thought on that, but that's the place to start. But
That's a good place to start. There's a lot of good information there. Yeah.
So Facebook is all about interest targeting and audience building, and then pushing people through a number of steps to get them to an offer, right?
Exactly.
Take your existing customer list, import it into, this is another tip, everybody that's ever interacted with your company.
Right.
Okay? Import those into a custom audience and let Facebook try to match that.
Yep.
Hopefully you have more than 3,000. That's kind of where you want to be to start this process. And then if that works out for you, you can create a similar audience, lookalike audience based on those people. Okay? Lastly, on Facebook, this is where if you have invested in your Facebook business page, continue to roll through apportionment of your budget to those people to make offers and to help with that, and continue to grow that Facebook business page. I think there's a negative view of promoting that page using any paid paid techniques. People call it buying likes. Well, okay, but then I would say that a television ad is buying eyeballs.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same.
Everything, yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. That is the nature of advertising.
Yeah.
But hopefully you have a really good message to send to those people. So those are some Facebook tips. On the Google side, this is a little more complicated, but one of the things that is super important are three things, all related, in terms of your cost, your visibility, and the metrics you need to look at on Facebook, Google Ads, are three main criteria. Quality score, a metric that's newish called percentage of impression share lost. Very important. And then lastly is your ad rank. Okay? So just to kind of go over quickly, and this is really important because I know a lot of people with small businesses have a little Google ad running.
They get worried, but keep a hold of some of those tips, and it'll work out.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
So with the small businesses that have maybe $200 a month running, if you have those ads, you can look at these metrics and you can figure this out. Your quality score is Google's actual score on a scale of 0 to 10 of how. Oh, no. It's not that.
No, we're good.
Okay. Stacy was just saying her Facebook feed went down. Well, Stacy, Facebook broke for you because it's working over
Refresh.
The quality score is a score that Google gives you, contains a whole bunch of different things in it. Does your message match your audience? Are they clicking through? Do you have a good CTR rate? Is the destination page that you've got there matching what you're saying on your ad?
Yeah, that's really important. I think that a lot of people miss is the ad or messaging mismatches. That really affects the score.
Yeah.
And never, ever drive people to your homepage from paid advertising.
No.
It's not a good idea.
That's
Your homepage has a completely different purpose in the universe. It does have a very important purpose. Ollie Gardner from Unbounced talks a lot about the attention deficit ratio, which is really important, which is effectively the number of messages versus the number of outbound links you have on that page. And if you have a very high attention deficit, you're going to have a very leaky funnel. People are going to go check something else out when they visit that homepage, right?
Exactly.
So that's the quality score. You need to filter and look for your quality score for your keywords and for your ads. Because if you are below a 5, you're paying a 4 pretty much. I mean, it scales up as the number goes down. You're paying a premium up to 400 to 500% more.
Yeah. So you definitely want to make sure that that you're not doing that.
That's right. So if you've got, imagine, right? If you've got a $200 ad budget and this, maybe it's working for your business, maybe it's not. It could definitely be working better, even with very small budgets.
Small optimizations too.
Yeah. So that's quality score. If you have a low quality score, address it immediately.
Yeah, or you're going to be wasting that money.
That's right.
Yeah.
The second thing, and this is ad rank. This is an awesome feature that Google adds. This is how Google does it. We have an ad rank, but we're not going to show you what that number is.
Very nice.
Thank you very much, Google. That's great. But what they do say is that the way that you infer your ad rank, so ad rank includes quality score, and then it also includes a number of other factors to rank your ad, including the bid and other things, to see whether your ad is powerful enough to show at certain times, right? So that's kind of where that comes from. So the way that you check to see if you have a good or a bad ad rank is you look at the percentage of impression share lost. So it's an inverted number. So if it's very high, that's very bad because you've lost the impressions, which means you're not showing up, which means when you do show up, you're paying a lot more.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So when you see that number, you want it down at 20. You know, you're not going to win every one, but if you're down 10, 15, 20% impression share lost, you're doing well, right? These are the optimizations that you make in these search campaigns for Google Ads.
For sure. And
if you have a high number of impression share lost, that's your problem child. You have to go and fix it and figure out what it is, right? And just the last thing for people, you know, there are people that have 7-figure budgets for Google ad campaigns and for advertising, and there are people that have 6-figure yearly budgets and less. If you have these smaller budgets, this all becomes much more important, as does not just running something 24/7 on autopilot, right? You want to compress, use day parting, different times of day. Don't run it at night. Don't run it on the weekends, or run it only on the weekends to save and conserve your budget. So hopefully some of that stuff, just to kind of circle back on this, is it's very infrequent that you're going to hit, you know, a grand slam just to wrap up baseball season, I guess. I don't know why I'm using all these baseball analogies.
Stuff,
Go Nationals.
It works out.
The Washington Nationals won the World Series, by the way. I know you're not. You're not a sports person.
No, I'm not a sports person.
That's okay. You don't have to be.
I'll just yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
I believe in whatever team.
You know what a grand slam is, so you get the.
I get the reference.
You get the reference, so that's all good. You're probably not going to do that, and you're gonna struggle, air quotes, in the first days of running these types of campaigns. So don't be afraid to stop and pivot, be critical, look at what is working and what is not, and don't be afraid to say this is not working, but head it off before it becomes a financial issue, right?
Really,
Stop it, pivot it, restart it, and go from there. And don't be afraid to do that, because if you have a view that when I go into my advertising campaigns looking for unrealistic expectations of initial success, you're going to have a challenge, because then the next step is going to be, well, I don't think I should be doing advertising, and you should be doing advertising. Within your budget, you need to be. So anyhow, just some
good
words of advice.
Cool tips.
No, they seem to be working for us, so
for sure.
Just share them out.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, have a good. It's going to be a cold weekend up here.
Don't tell me that.
In the
It's going to be an
inside
type of weekend for sure.
Well, at least I have my winter tires on, so.
Yes.
I still got to get.
You did get that. I do not.
Yeah, I still got to get them.
I did see a lot of cars covered in a lot of snow this morning too.
Really?
Yeah, mine was.
Like, I didn't see any snow out there, but when I was driving, I saw cars that were like white.
Yep.
Yeah.
So some places got.
I heard people were scraping off their cars, which is the.
I had to scrape my car this
morning.
morning.
That's not my favorite part.
Yep.
That's like the worst.
Awesome. Well, have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you back here next Friday for Live at the Hive episode 103.
103.
There we go.
Cool.
Peace. Have a great weekend.